guys, my name is Attorney Walter Not III. Let me go through real quick a little bit more detail about President Biden firing the head of the Social Security Administration. We're going to be focusing specifically on using the New York Times article as kind of our backdrop and explaining and annotating the details relevant to this whole situation. So let's go through it real quick. Mr. Biden asked on Friday morning for the resignation of Andrew Saul, the Social Security Commissioner, and David Black as Deputy Commissioner. Mr. Black resigned as requested, but Mr. Saul refused to relinquish his position and was notified by the administration that he had been fired. He has vowed to fight Mr. Biden's move as illegal, which it actually is illegal, but we're going to go into what he's really doing here. Mr. Biden moved to appoint an acting commissioner. I don't know how to pronounce this person's name. I tried to look it up on YouTube. It appears that most people don't know, or no agency is really providing any information on specifically how to pronounce it, but we're just going to go with KK or Kilolo Kishikaze. While the administration looks for permanent replacements for the two jobs, Ms. Kishikaze is currently the Deputy Commissioner for Retirement and Disability Policy at the agency. The developments were first reported by the Washington Post. The firing was the latest move by Mr. Biden to oust a Trump-appointed director of an independent executive agency. In June, the president removed the head of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, which oversees mortgage giants Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, after the Supreme Court ruled that the president had the authority to remove the head of the agency. Democrats have sought to oust Mr. Saul from his position since the early days of Mr. Biden's administration. Those calls grew in the wake of the $1.9 trillion stimulus package that the Democrats passed in March, which include 1,400 direct payments to individuals. Lawmakers have said Mr. Saul helped to delay the payments to retirees by not transmitting necessary files to the Internal Revenue Service. Mr. Saul's agency said it did not receive funding to do that work. Ohio Senator Sherrod Brown, the chairman of the Senate Finance Committee Subcommittee on Social Security, Pensions, and Family Policy, called for Mr. Saul's resignation in February, saying Mr. Saul had sought to issue regulations meant to reduce access to Social Security disability benefits, including denying benefits to an estimated 100,000 potential recipients who do not speak English fluently. Social Security is the better, and remember, this is the same senator who's coming out with and is placed on the Senate floor. Well, it's not on the Senate floor yet. It's basically in the committees, but he's placed it in the Senate. He's filed it for the Supplemental Security Income Restoration Act, which I've done a bunch of videos on, which is a really, really good thing. We should, if you're not into that, please look into it further. I'm going to do more videos specifically going through the actual bill language. I'm a little worried that it might be a little bit over most people's heads, because when you start getting into the legalese of it, automatically people don't understand how to read those types of paragraph formats, and it can be difficult. But I'm still going to go through it because I think a lot of people are interested in how it works. So, Social Security is the bedrock of our middle class. Just a quote. A White House official speaking anonymously because he was not authorized to discuss the firing publicly said the administration believed that Mr. Saul had undermined Social Security's disability benefits, terminated a telework policy at the agency, and alienated federal employee unions over workforce safety planning amid the pandemic. Mr. Saul did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Republicans seized on the firing, portraying it as a political decision. Social Security beneficiaries stand the most to lose from President Biden's partisan decisions to remove Commissioner Andrew Saul from leadership of the Social Security Administration, said Representative Kevin Brady of Texas. The top Republican on the Ways and Means Committee, the Senator I don't know all these senators' last names, how to pronounce, Mike Crapo of Idaho, the top Republican on the Finance Committee. It is disappointing that the administration is injecting politics into the agency, given that Commissioner Saul was confirmed with bipartisan approval, worked closely with both parties in Congress, and provided both smooth benefit and service delivery during the largest management challenge ever faced by the agency. All right, now we're going to read through the lines of this, now that you've got the article. The Biden administration was not happy because when they released that whole $1,400, basically Commissioner Saul went to the IRS and said, you're going to have to pay us a heck of a lot of money to go ahead and create these lists and process them. He did this as a businessman, and basically he's in his 70s. He comes from that style of, we got to get paid for the work we do, which is not actually unfair, and here's why. Imagine that a group of people that oversees you comes to you and says, look, we're gonna need to increase your workload by about 300%. And we need it done by this day. You would normally be like, well, what are you going to compensate me with? But in this case, the government wasn't really doing their part of it, which was to make sure that the government employees were compensated for the work that they're doing. And one of the problems with the way America works is that we, as a human being, attribute basically our worth to the amount we get per month. That's how much worth we have as a human being. That's how we look at that. We're probably worth significantly more than that as living, breathing human beings on Earth, but That's how we work with the system financially. It's what we get per month is how we attribute our worth as human beings. So what happened here was he said, hey, you're asking us to do a heck of a lot of work. We are only allowed to do what's within our, prescribed vocation, and you are now prescribing additional things and not paying us more. So you're going to have to pay us more. And then basically he went back and forth with the IRS. President Biden didn't like that because all the people that were looking on Social Security benefits, especially disability benefits for SSI, a lot of those, which is the most fragile class of all people, poor and impaired, poor and disabled. So the bottom line is President Biden came out and said, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? Just do it. Get it done. He said, no, we can't work on it until you pay us more. And then basically, finally, the IRS brought forward more money, paid the Social Security Administration more money. They produced the list that they gave to the IRS, and then poof, the checks went out late. And they went out, a chunk late, With that said, I've heard the arguments, well, he had to create the list. Did he, though? Or was it more of like just an update thing? Because we did have 2 prior stimuluses before that still went to people. So did he have to create them or just update them? And was the update a really massive task? I'm sure it was. I mean, think of all the people that are on this. Think of all the people that have died that were, received the first stimulus but not the third stimulus. Think of all the people that changed on this. So, there's a lot going on there. So what's happening now is that, yes, they can, Supreme Court ruled that they're within the for some of these individuals, the purview or whatever, within the jurisdiction of the President of the United States. However, there's a problem, and that's that the entire reason the Social Security Commissioner was given 6 years as opposed to just 4 years was that the government purposely put that law in place constitutionally to restrict the White House, current political regime, to go ahead and, politicize an agency. They didn't want political agencies. They didn't want the military politicized. They didn't want the Social Security Administration politicized. Because otherwise they can just put somebody new in and do whatever they want, right? So they gave them 6 years so that there was always a bit of lag with another person in there. So what does this mean? It means that a legal battle will ensue, and nobody knows how it will come out. Nobody knows. There's no scholar, there's no person at Harvard, there's no person at Yale who actually knows how this thing is going to come out. So the bottom line is this: everybody thinks it might go this way or that way. We saw how somebody else went, but this legal battle, even though it'll probably go to the Supreme Court again, might come out differently. You don't know. When the Supreme Court's involved, you just don't know. You don't know which way it's going to come out. I've seen things that I thought were certain. It goes to the Supreme Court, and they come out with something else, and it's usually brilliant, and I didn't see it, and there it is. It's law now. So the bottom line is this, guys. With this whole situation, I think that he's going to be holding out for a settlement where they just pay him more money, because when they usually fire somebody like this and ask for a resignation, they usually will get some sort of severance. And I don't know if he was getting a severance, but that's usually what happens with this stuff. So we'll see if this thing comes out. But the problem is the federal government does not want the prior Social Security Administration in his 70s putting information out there about the functional capacity of the Social Security Administration, because there's always little skeletons here and there that could potentially pop up. So they'll probably set him up with a better severance deal, although it would be called a settlement at that point. And then he'll go, he'll retire and he'll live his life, and that's kind of how that whole thing will go. Will they try to say we don't owe you anything? Yeah, it could potentially go that way, but I don't think it will. I think they'll pay to get rid of this problem. That's usually how things happen at that high executive level. All right, so guys, that's basically that article. We're going to be doing something else a little bit differently and going through more information from there. I'll catch you a little bit later. Have a wonderful day, and thank you so much. Bye-bye.